Ganja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandanam Rajadanandanam Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagvatam Ki So thank you for giving me this chance to share my humble realizations with all of you on the Srimad Bhagvatam, chapter 9, text 6. Can you help me with the Sanskrit? Can you read the Sanskrit for me? Yeah. Asto Sme Aham Kripana Tatala Rasatam Ranita Sansara Chakra Kadanagrasatam Pranitha Vada Swa Karmavi Krito Apavarga Charanam Agase Kada Krito Pavarga Sharanam Viyayasi Kada Kadanat, from such a miserable condition. Grasatam, among other conditioned souls, who devour one another. Kind of scary. Um, Pranitaha, being thrown. Badaha, bound. Swakarmabhir, the course by the reaction of my own activities. Ushatama, O great insurmountable. Te, your. Angrimulam, to the soles of the lotus feet. Prita, being pleased with me. Apavarga Sharanam, which are the shelter meant for liberation from the horrible condition of material existence. Vayase, you will call me. Kada, when, nu, indeed. Translation by C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O most powerful, insurmountable Lord, let me read for insurmountable Lord, who are kind to the fallen souls. I have been put into the association of demons as a result of my activities, and therefore I'm very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditioned life? Let's repeat, it's a beautiful verse from Prahlad Maharaj. O most powerful, insurmountable Lord, who are kind to the fallen souls, I have been put into the into the association of demons as a result of my activities. And therefore, I'm very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditioned life? It's a question. Interesting. Is it a question? It's a question, right? I didn't put the right intonation. Oh, when will I? Okay. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His transcendental ecstasies. Being the material world is certainly miserable. We know that. But certainly, when one is put into the association of asuras or atheistic men, it is intolerably so. One may ask why the living entity is put into the material world. Indeed, sometimes foolish people deride the Lord for having put them here. Actually, everyone is put into conditional life according to his karma. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, representing all the other conditioned souls, admits that he was put into life among the asuras because of the result of his karma. The Lord is known as Kripana Vatsala because he is extremely kind to the conditioned souls. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, therefore, the Lord appears whenever there are discrepancies in the execution of religious principles. Yada yada hidharmasya glani bhavati bharata tadatmanam srijamyaham. The Lord is extremely anxious to deliver the conditioned souls, and therefore he instructs all of us to return home back to Godhead. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam raja. Thus Prahlad Maharaj expected that the Lord, by his kindness, would call him again to the shelter of his lotus feet. In other words, everyone should be eager to return home, back to Godhead, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus being fully trained in Krishna consciousness. Shri Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanandi. Om Jnana Timirandasya Janam Janam Shalakaya Chakshur Amritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanandi. So it's a pleasure to be here again, sharing my humble realizations with you. I just saw the verse now, but it's a beautiful verse, and I'll do my best to share with you whatever I possibly can. Prahlad Maharaj is exemplifying the pure devotee, and he's put in a situation which is the most amazing. He is born from a demon, a demoniac father, who'd kill without thinking. Just imagine that your son, your beloved son, has to be given to your brother, and he's going to kill him. Their son, that little, so delicate little baby, undefensible, is going to be killed. Not once, twice, so many times. The kind of mindset of such a person is impossible to analyze. Why is he doing such a thing? Why does he want? It's only because he has embedded fear that his conviction that he is supreme, he is God, is challenged. That fear is what drives his evilness. He's afraid to be denied his thesis that he is God, that he is supreme, that he is the ultimate controller and the most independent person, that he doesn't have to reply or report or get submission to someone superior. I'm free. The free spirit. Familiar? Have you heard about that? So when we hear of his activities, we kind of magnify what it happened, what it means. And we have examples in our planet of, great tyrants in this world. We hear about Hitler and we get a little bit, our heart becomes a little bit compressed because, he would say, these people, they are actually not really people. They're inferior race. So we can kill them. So by depersonalizing those people who are the Jews, he could put them into jails. He could kill them at will. Soldiers, Nazi soldiers would come here with us, take a gun, and shoot one of us without explanation. So whoever survived didn't understand why you were killed or why you're not killed. There's no reason to be killed. You're just killed. So by inputting that kind of practice, you dominate everybody because now everybody's ruled by fear. You don't know. There is no parameter of righteousness, there's no parameter of justice, there's no parameter of liberation. It's only the will of one person. He has a gun and he's authorized to do that. So that mentality is the demoniac mentality which is presented here. And we understand when we hear that the Holocaust, we become extremely horrified internally. And sometimes we cannot relate that this is a much bigger process than that. He was killing civilizations just to keep his power. And that is exactly what we live today. If you look at the big corporations, we just represent consumer data. They want to sell our data all the time. Consent your data. Consent. Every app now is consent your data. We want to sell you. Why? Because they want to manipulate us into consumers. They want to understand. Every time you say a word, your phone pops a picture. Have you seen it? You're talking about, I don't know, holidays, and boom, why don't you go to this? I didn't even type anything. I've come to the point when I think something and the phone puts an image. My God, this guy is now reading my mind. All of this is the AI drive to anticipate the needs and sell those needs to people who want to sell things. So just for the sake of profit, and I'll present something a little bit later about this. Actually, this verse is such a perfect verse for what I want to say today. Because Prahlad Maharaj, he is put in that heart of that mentality, and he's been threatened death so many times. He's been put in a place where there are serpents in the room, vicious serpents, to kill him. Now you can imagine if you have a Naja. Have you seen a Naja? Amrita Gopal. Have you ever been in front of a Naja cobra? You haven't. It's quite scary. I've done it. I've been in the zoo, and when I was a kid in India, they used to go past our gardens, but we wouldn't see the full hood. We just see them running, and then we had nice mongoose, which would come and kill them. So we love the mongoose. But in a zoo, the Naja is didn't she, and she's in front of you dancing, and you know she's deadly. She can kill you. Actually, there was one in India when I lived in India in 1980. My father was just a student, had a scholarship, but because labor was so cheap, we had 5 servants, and we are just a middle class little someone. Uh, and the driver, he was a Muslim. His name was Zafa, and our say, coordinator, I don't know her name. She's not a butler. She was the general manager of the house. She was a Christian, Teresa, and Zafa was Muslim, but they had such a deep love and deep connection. The Dhobi was Hindu. He was a 72-year-old man with a permanent grin on his face. He never dropped it. He was always smiling with a big grin. Anything happened, there was a grin, and he was amazing. Uh, yes, and more people. Uh, the cook was a Sahaja. He was a Ashok. He dressed like a gopi, but not at home. He'd show pictures we discovered later. But I wanted to bring the point of Zafa. Zafa was a Muslim man, one of the greatest grounded person I've met in terms of someone who worked with me. And the reason was he was always ready to serve. There was not a moment you asked something that Zafa was not ready to interact and solve your issue. That was his mood. He was a driver, he was a handyman, he would sort out any problems. And the house, as you see, was such a religious diversity, but we all loved each other. And there was Vijay. She was taking care of us little kids. We are little rascals, and she was also very kind. She was Hindu, so we had Hindu, Muslims, Sahajas, which is a deviation. We had Christians. We were also Christians at the time, and there was such a love in the house, such a cooperation, which you never notice our differences of opinion. But Zafar, he his master was German, Mr. von Oppen. Now, Mr. von Oppen lived in a house with 22 bedrooms. He was a full researcher of Ikrisat. He had 3 cars at his door. He could travel to anywhere he wanted, paid by the Ikrisat. So he was on another level, as you see, like a demigod level for us. And Zafa worked for him. And Zafa, at one night, he was sleeping in his house, a small village for the servants, and the Naja bit him right here on the pulse. It was a small Naja, baby Naja. He thought it was something, he had some beads. He thought it was his beads, curly, so he squeezed it, and the Naja bit him here. Now, it was maybe 2 a.m. in the morning, and Zafa didn't want to disturb Mr. Von Oppen. So because of that, he was unsecure if he should call him, not call him. And there's a chokidar, you will be familiar with chokidar. the night guards. Mr. Van Alpen had about 3 night guards, and they were telling Zafa, "You think you should talk to Mr. Van Alpen?" And finally, like let's say 3 a.m., they gave him a chili, very hot chili. When he chewed it, he couldn't feel anything. He said, "You're dead, Zafa. You have to run." So he ran. He knocked on Mr. Van Alpen's door, and Mr. Van Alpen just ran out of the house and said, "Why did you wake me up?" And he was so furious. So he grabbed the anti-venom and he put him on the car. He raced to the hospital. He made to the hospital maybe 5 a.m. Just too late. The doctors all knew it. But Zafar still was coming. And he said, "Apply this." And none of the doctors, "It's useless. You'll not apply the venom." He said, "So I will." So Mr. Van Alpen broke open the syringe. He and he Zafar died on Mr. Van Alpen's hand. It was such a deep, loving relationship, even though it was fully material. But it was a resemblance of what a servant-master relationship could look like. This was one cobra. Prahlad Maharaj was in a whole room full of hungry cobras, had not eaten for days, and very agitated. And that's the kind of situation he was put into. And he was not bitten. Do you know why? Yes, but there's a specific quality in him that the snakes could not. Non-envious. There was zero envious in him. And the snakes are known to be envious entities. Because they bite you, they kill you without you doing anything to them, apparently. That's your karma to be bitten. But so that because he didn't have any envy, they had no, like a radio, no receiver for their frequency. Like, when you send a radio signal, if you're not tuned in, you cannot hear. So they send the envious signals, but there was no contact with him. He was in another layer. It just passed through. Okay? And then they couldn't recognize that he was a person. They even thought he might be a stone or another thing, because they couldn't relate to someone who's not envious. So this is the deeper meaning of Prahlad. Because he was non-conditioned by the stimuli sent to him, he wasn't receiving them. And on top of that, his body was protected by Krishna himself. It's a mystical, because they tried to pierce him with tridents, and it didn't pierce him. They tried to boil the water, and the water molecules refused to boil. They threw him over a cliff, and Krishna held him. So, because Prahlad was so surrendered to Krishna, Krishna was so miraculously helping and sheltering him at every step. So the message of this verse is that if we reach surrender to the degree we do, that level will reciprocate by Krishna. And Krishna knows us as the deepest psychologist. There's no psychologist on the planet, in the universe, who knows you better than he does. He knows exactly the thought you had. You don't have the courage to reveal. The thought we had at the back of our minds, oh my God, I can't say that. But he knows. The feeling you had, he knows. The unconscious feelings we had, he knows. He knows what we're going to do after. And yet, he remains neutral, just waiting for us to say, Krishna, I want you. And here Prahlad is saying exactly that. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet? So Prahlad is not imposing, Krishna, you have to put me there. He says, when? It's a question. When, Krishna, will that day come that I'll be sheltered unto you? It's a similar in this Bengali song, Gauranga bolite habe Pulaka Sharira Hari Hari bolite na Yani Bhavini. Basically saying, when that day will come, just by saying Hari, tears will drop my cheeks and I'll be crying in separation for you, Krishna. So this is what Prahlad is anticipating, enunciating. He's telling us this is there for us. Doesn't matter if you come from a demoniac background. Doesn't matter. But if you give the steps, Krishna's ready to do that. And yesterday we talked about desires, feelings, and addressing your feelings, addressing your your hidden desires, your hidden passions, and how that's important for bhakti. Um, Kartikeya, you ready to put that up? Can we put that up? We may just bear with us a little minute for technological. This is what I was going to present on Saturday, Sunday. Well, when was Holy? Saturday. Saturday, right? Um, that the cable didn't work out. Somehow Krishna didn't want technology there. He just wanted natural things. And that's good. So, um, you got it? Yes. Let me synchronize with my own so we have the same language. I want you, hold on, let me close here. This presentation I've given in many places called Feed the Earth. That's the tour. Last year I did this tour in North America. I went to about 9 places and I presented it. And this year I presented about 8 places here. We won't be able to do a full presentation, but I can give you a glimpse of it. Prabhu, double click on the gray top. Next to Feed the Earth, there's a little circle. Gray, can you click there? Right. Redefining humans come up? Yes. So we're talking of demons, right? And my question to you is, what was the intention of the Industrial Revolution? To slave everybody. How? You're very close. Let's get more opinions. Industrial Revolution. It was right here in your very close. North England was. Yes. So produce more to get more money, right? Yes, produce more. Economic development. Economic development. From Jersey? Yes. Control. But control in the following way. The whole idea was to redefine us. We are creative beings. We have the power to create things. We have the power to create homes, community, produce food, produce beauty, life, aesthetics, connection to God. So the whole concept is you should become controlled by being a consumer. You shall be reduced to a consumer. That's my main goal. Okay? And that thought process is a demoniac process. Prahlad is referring to it. Prabhu, can you click on digital transhumanism? Okay. Are you familiar with this terminology? Digital transhumanism? Let's go one back. If you click on it, it goes back once. If you with 2 fingers, it goes back to the previous slide. You can do that? One more. Like if you on my screen, if you just do 2 fingers, it will go back. Yes, right. And the term Prabhupada Pran is right there. Digital transhumanism. Anybody heard that term? Let's go by digital. That's easy, right? Digital technology. And transhumanism? Making us into machines like a sci-fi film. The robots are coming. Close the door. That's part of it. But trans is yes, yes. Well, it could be in this context. We are trying to use the word transhumanism as it was transcendence, go beyond. Okay, so transcendence. We go beyond dense the existence. We go beyond existence. Transhumanism, you go beyond the human limits. So whatever the humans cannot do, we do through equipments, machine. So transplanting, implementing, all of this idea of transhumanism. We will conquer the planet without technology. We'll conquer the rain by greenhouses. We conquer the lack of fertility by chemical fertilizers. We conquer the pest with pesticides. All right, so that's the mood. So if we go back, click again on there, and let's go to the next one. Huh? Digital, yes. Okay, right? There you are. So genetic modification is one which scared us with Dolly, and now we're trying human also. How to do uh, genetic mutations in humans is being studied in many places, and different ideas, and this whole thing. Actually, if you put a background, can you click on background? Yes, there's a little ball background. You got it? No, background right there in the middle. Can you see that? No. Zoom in. Can you see background? Oh, okay. Click again. Let's try again. The middle ball. Yes, background. There you go. The background, first mechanization, more production, the tractors, machines, the coal exploration, all that light. Then we had exploration, oil, coal, big fossil fuels usage. And then we had the atomistic vibe in the 70s, all the atomic plants in the world. Chernobyl was a big one, big accident. And then we had the virtual moment where everything is data, everything is information, bitcoins and economies, everything has become virtual. So that's the cycle that they're going. We go out of this, and let's click on agriculture. Okay, so this is what I presented a little bit on the stall. If you see the top picture is a line of tanks, and if you see the bottom picture, a line of combiners. Do you see the similarity between them? The same type of idea, the same logic. So Fritz Harbor, this gentleman here, would I say is like a bad guy of a cartoon. What can I do to catch you? he's saying, what's my next move? He thought, I'm going to use all the waste of war into agriculture. And because he did that, agriculture became massive, big areas, but at a very high cost. We won't have time to show, but in North America, the map of glyphosate spraying and the map of lung cancer is almost the same. Glyphosate is a herbicide you spray to kill the weeds. Okay? And cancer, lung cancer, by breathing, by eating, is almost 50%. So that's a kind of demoniac framework which we are, even if you don't want to participate, just in the air. So Shivaram Swami, I was with him 2 weeks ago. Around 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, in Budapest, before Janmashtami. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Gauranitai. Spoke Shivaram Swami. Yes, Shivaram Swami. That's a dear devotee. Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Gaura Premanandi. So he was saying that 50% of the population of the world roughly has some level of cancer. That's massive. 50% of us have cancer. Which means in this room, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4.5 of us have it in some degree or another. So it's something which is imposed on us. The laws of the council, the laws of the countries, the way the market organizes itself, the way we're forced to work. We just, in that, we cannot easily get out of this. And this system takes our emotions and throws them into lower emotions: fear, apathy, grief, lamentation, because we cannot have the power to autonomously move up, go forward. Yeah? And in the purport I read yesterday uh, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 12, the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, part of this of the purpose says, a material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. That's a material desire. You really want to conquer the world. So that's the image which is planted in our minds. You're young, travel, enjoy, party, have it. So that information, you see, like what's most unbeneficial for us is placed in our inner unconscious, the top goal to be achieved. In modern language, this is economic development. What does it mean? We're thinking, if I'm all right, if I have money, if I have a car, if I have a bank account, I'm set. Life is good. I'll be happy. And then Devamrita Swami was another point of the lecture. He talks about hidden behind unnatural happiness. And he explains that how this economic development is a joke. It's going to crash. America is crashing. I was talking to my friend Amritanam in North Carolina. He's describing the crisis North America is going, that American dream of the 60s is crashing. The dream is crashing. There's still people there holding to many things, but it's crashing. And so we think it's going to be permanent. But Prabhupada didn't think like that so much. Now, look at this sentence. I want you to pay attention to this sentence. An inordinate, you know this word, inordinate? Inordinate. I-N-O-R-D-I-N-A-T. Inordinate. Pronunciation correction. Inordinate. How do you translate that word, inordinate? Isha. Kartik. Inordinate. No, that will be a false cognate. Unusual. Does anybody have Google? Can you look up in your inordinate? What does it mean? Let's have a quick. Is it big in size? What is the translation of the disproportional? Excessive. Okay. See, Prabhupada is very erudite. He is using words which we think but it's very precise words. So disproportionate. So he says an inordinate desire for economic development, or disproportional desire for economic development, is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. Now the context is your heart should be clean for the Lord to sit there. And if there's an excessive desire for economic development, you're putting straw and sand, and the Lord has to sit, and it's very unpleasant for him. And so for him, when you're sitting in an unpleasant chair, you want to move, right? So even though the Lord is in your heart, he may choose to be in another place of your heart. He won't leave your heart, but he won't be sitting on the right room where you talk to him. He may be in another room while you clean your room up a little bit. If one is overly engaged, see, Prabhupada is always very careful. He didn't say if you want to engage, if one overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sansara Vishnale Divanisti Rida Jwale Judaite Nam Kainu Upaya. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principles of devotional service. And there's so much more, but I'll try to summarize so we can talk a little bit. Yesterday we talked about addressing your inner unknown feelings to be able to reach the mode of goodness and peace. Here we're describing how all this scenario of working so hard to just maintain yourself disturbs bhakti, disturbs your devotional service. And we talk about how the farm communities were supposed to be places where you would solve your problems by having food, having shelter, having cloth, the basic needs will be taken care of. So I just wanted to point out, it won't be a topic, but just a point. Prabhupada's formula of farm communities was exactly to put us in a favorable condition from all this demoniac infrastructure, network, and intention. And here Prahlad Maharaj, he's praying, I'm in the samsara cycle. When I'll be free from it? And when you will call me? So we just make a connection between bhakti and simple living, bhakti and addressing your feelings, bhakti and having the purpose to please Krishna, bhakti and wanting to go back to Godhead, bhakti and deciding this will be my last life on this material existence. So that's where this verse is concluding. And I just received a contribution from Ananda. He said he apologized, he couldn't be in the class, and he's traveling, and he sent me a verse from Rupa Goswami. It's Madhya 1, 190 by Rupa Goswami, and it says, he's saying, Dear Lord, let us inform you that no one is more sinful than us, nor is there any offender like us. Even if we wanted to mention our sinful activities, we would immediately become ashamed. And what to speak of giving them up? Now, so interesting, he mentioned this because he reminded of yesterday's classes. When we think, we make a question to the emotion, can I let go? Can I let go? And the process of bhakti is actually trying to address all those hidden emotions so we can get to peace. And that peace can only be there when we clean the heart, because Krishna will sit and he is the source of the peace that we are looking for. He is peace. He is happiness. So to address that happiness and peace, we have to be connected to him. And this verse, Prahlad Maharaj is giving his deepest prayers on that. Hare Krishna. I'll leave some space. We could have more of that, more of this, but interaction is the best. If you have questions, Kartik has a question. Well, thank you for the very intelligent question. Yes, it's a $1 million question, right? We are looking for it. And the answer to that is multifaceted, because in a way you could say it's a self-realization. It's a simple answer. And then, but that's a concept can be very unattainable. When will I be on that level? He's saying, when will be the day? Gauranga Bolite Habir, when the day will come? You know, and for me, individually, it's addressing this unconscious feelings, which allows me to think. For example, when I was a young man, I wanted to be vegetarian, but we come from Brazil, so All of a sudden, there was a huge barbecue in my backyard, and my mom says, "Hey, why don't you join us?" And I was, okay, like. Or one day, I thought to myself, "See, you distance. Why do I need to be violent to live?" Simple question. And my mind contemplated and said, "Yes, we don't need to create violence. We can live without violence." Now, my fear was I'm going to starve because everybody eats this, and what will I do? So, when I addressed that fear by having association devoted and seeing there were options, there were networks of food, I would not starve. It's a big propaganda, right? Because meat is only like 10% of the dishes, rice, there's beans, there's vegetables, there's so many things in the plate. But they make it, if you don't have the meat, you won't survive. So it's so ingrained in our culture. But the minute I admitted to myself, I don't need to commit violence to live, that second, I had no desire for meat eating. I wasn't really fond of it. Some little special things that maybe I was at the time, but even those were dropped exactly at that moment. Now, deeper, um, Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj, he would say, he has a poem where he's offering to Prabhupada, I have talked to the ministers of Africa, I have talked to the president, and Prabhupada would repeat to him, are you ready to renounce your lust for me? And Prabhupada, I have established Gitanagari. Prabhupada, this is him speaking to himself. And Prabhupada says, are you ready to give up your lust for me? And he's listing all the accomplishments. We're not few. He was such an accomplisher. And he's making this question to himself. Now, the meaning of that, Kartik, is that these feelings are very deeply rooted in our hearts from millions of lives. And we have not yet addressed them because our unconscious mind thinks if I drop them, I die. If I have no desire, I'll be no one. I'll be someone of no importance. I'll be someone, you know. If I abandon my fear, I'll be killed. I'll be left alone in my old age. I'll be robbed. All these fears is supposed to protect you, but they become a value inside us. And those deep uh, tamas feeling, they are rooted on a much deeper emotion, which is desire to be independent from Krishna. So we're afraid if we give up that feeling, again we have to be subordinate. We have to join a religion. I have to be accountable to someone. Really? I have to do that? And I'll be happy? And there was one gentleman, he was a doctor. I was doing book distribution in Brazil. A very enthusiastic young brahmachari. My head was almost blue, shaved, saffron, and we're conquering the world. And it's nighttime, so it's a nightclub in Brazil. So some darkness should be expected. But actually, I gave books to many people. And one gentleman, he was kind of short, funny, and he was on a table, and he kind of said, Mini, come here. I was in dhoti and a bag of books, and he approached me and he said, we had just launched a new bill, a Brazilian bill. We had this money called real, the real money. It's not mine, it's real money. And he got 50 bill, 50 reais bill, which is brand new. And he put the bill, he made like a V shape, and started drinking whiskey with his bill. And he just, I love money. Money's so good. And I love drinking. What are you? You're a monk? Probably your guru is in India enjoying, and you're here at night, this time working. And he really downloaded his demoniac thoughts on me. My God, I was devastated. Because he hit some of my hidden fears. What if I'm being manipulated? I'm working so hard. What if there's someone up there enjoying? I'm here suffering. I'm a beggar. Should I be a beggar? All these fears were in my mind. And I couldn't surrender to the nectar of book distribution. Once you do, you see, oh my God, how mistaken I was. What nectar is there? But here's the story. So after he insulted me for about 10 minutes, and I couldn't say anything because everybody was looking at me. The whole bar was looking. What was I going to do? So I left. Of course, I became very depressed. I started dropping the marathon. And my authority said, no, just stay, chant a little bit, recover, next day. And my book distribution partner said, we're going to lose, come on, cheer up. We're going to lose the marathon, get up, let's go. And he convinced me to go. So we decided to go again the next night. And we went to the same bar. And there was the same man. This time a little more sober, with another circle drinking. And he called me again. He said, oh my God, I can't take it. If he insults me again, I don't have enough power to hold the dress code. I'll just say things to him. But I did go to him. So when John came, he stopped with us. My dear young man, I see you have a purpose. I'm a doctor and a surgeon. Yesterday I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind. I must have said something crazy. These are my colleagues. They're all doctors. Can you tell us